It's 2 in the morning. Your dog has their own bed somewhere in the house. A perfectly comfortable one, probably softer than half the furniture you own. And yet, here they are, walking in slow circles on your mattress, turning 3 times like they're negotiating a real estate deal, before settling directly against your leg and claiming roughly 80% of the bed. Most people assume it's simple. Maybe your dog is cold, maybe it's routine, maybe they're just a little clingy. But behavioral science suggests something far more interesting is happening, because what your dog is doing every single night is actually one of the most complex expressions of trust, attachment, and coevolution between two species on this planet. And most dog owners never realize it. Let's start with the obvious explanation. Warmth. It sounds reasonable. Dogs get cold, humans are warm. Problem solved. But here's the problem with that theory. Your dog has access to sunny patches on the floor, radiators, couches, blankets, and very likely a carefully curated pile of your clothes that somehow ended up on the ground. If warmth were the only goal, they would have plenty of options. So why do they keep choosing you? Because sleep is the most vulnerable state any animal can enter. When an animal sleeps, their awareness drops, their reaction time slows, and their defenses disappear. Every instinct in a dog's brain, instincts shaped by thousands of years of predator-prey survival, tells them to find somewhere hidden and safe before drifting off. And yet, instead of hiding in some quiet corner of the house, they walk straight past every safe location available, climb onto a mattress beside a human 15 times their size, and fall asleep. That isn't about temperature, it's about trust. Researchers at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest adapted a famous psychological experiment originally designed to study the bond between human infants and their mothers. The experiment is called the Strange Situation Test, and it measures attachment behavior. Things like how strongly an individual seeks closeness to their caregiver, how they react when separated, and how they respond when reunited. When scientists applied this same test to dogs and their owners, the results were remarkable. Dogs displayed attachment patterns almost identical to those seen in human toddlers. The same desire to stay close, the same distress when separated, the same relief and calm when their person returned. In fact, about 61% of dogs tested were classified as securely attached, which is nearly the exact same percentage seen in human children. So when your dog chooses to sleep beside you, they aren't just looking for comfort, they are performing one of the most fundamental behaviors in attachment psychology, seeking proximity to their safe person during their most vulnerable state. They're not being needy, they're telling you that in their world, you are the safest place they know. But the story goes even deeper than psychology, because this bond also exists at the level of brain chemistry. In 2015, researchers at Asabu University in Japan published a study in the journal Science examining oxytocin levels in dogs and their owners during interaction. Oxytocin is often called the bonding hormone. It's the same chemical released in a mother's brain when she holds her newborn. When the researchers measured oxytocin levels in dog owner pairs, they found something extraordinary. When a dog gazed into their owner's eyes, both the dog and the human experienced a surge of oxytocin at the same time. The dog's oxytocin increased. The owner's oxytocin increased, which made the dog more likely to keep gazing, which increased oxytocin again, which strengthened the bond even further. It created a feedback loop, a cross-species bonding system. To test whether this was simply a general mammal behavior, scientists repeated the experiment with wolves that had been raised by humans. The effect completely disappeared. The oxytocin loop didn't activate at all, meaning this bond didn't just happen naturally, it evolved over thousands of years of living together, and physical closeness strengthens that bond even further. Studies have shown that just 10 minutes of petting a dog reduces cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, in both the dog and the human. Now imagine what happens over 8 hours of sleeping next to each other, which raises a fascinating question. When did humans and dogs start sleeping beside each other in the first place? The answer appears to be almost immediately. Dogs were domesticated long before agriculture, long before cities, and long before written history. Around 15,000 years ago, wolves began approaching human camps, attracted by leftover food, warmth from fires, and the relative safety of living near people. The friendliest wolves, the ones least afraid of humans, survived and reproduced. Over generations, those wolves gradually became something new: dogs. Archaeologists discovered a burial site in Germany dating back roughly 14,000 years. Inside were 2 humans, and 2 dogs buried beside them. But the most remarkable detail was that one of the dogs had survived a severe illness called canine distemper, a disease that normally kills within weeks. For that dog to survive, someone had to care for it for more than a month. 14,000 years ago, which means something important. Dogs weren't just tools, they were already family, and modern genetics confirms that bond. Domestic dogs carry unique genetic changes linked to friendliness and human-directed social behavior. Those changes simply don't exist in wolves. Dogs were shaped at the genetic level to seek out humans, to stay near us, to bond with us, and yes, to sleep next to us. So when your dog climbs into bed at night, they aren't doing something strange. They're continuing a partnership that began 15,000 years ago. But here's something surprising. A study at the Mayo Clinic monitored sleep patterns of dog owners and their pets using clinical sleep trackers. The results showed that dogs objectively disrupted human sleep. They move, they stretch, they occasionally perform the famous 3 a.m. full-body dog extension maneuver directly across your legs. Researchers found something interesting. Owners often woke briefly when their dog moved, but they rarely remembered it the next morning. The physical interruptions existed, but the psychological sense of safety was stronger than the disruption, which leads to a fascinating idea. For most of human history, people didn't sleep alone. We slept in groups, families, communities, camps. The modern idea of sleeping alone in a silent bedroom is actually a very recent development. Maybe your dog isn't ruining your sleep. Maybe they're restoring something ancient. A study in 2024 from the University of Jyväskylä in Finland measured heart rate variability, not one of the best indicators of nervous system regulation, in dogs and their owners. They discovered that bonded dogs and their humans often showed synchronized physiological patterns. Their nervous systems were literally aligning with each other. When the owner relaxed, the dog relaxed. When the owner became stressed, the dog's physiology shifted as well. And the synchronization was strongest during rest. In other words, 2 completely different species were co-regulating each other's nervous systems all night. But there's one last thing every dog owner should know. If your dog has slept beside you for years and suddenly stops, pay attention. Dogs are creatures of routine. When a deeply established behavior changes overnight, there's usually a reason. Sometimes it's environmental. A new pet, a change in schedule, a shift in the household. But sometimes it's physical. Veterinary researchers have found that changes in sleep location can be one of the earliest signs of pain. A dog that suddenly stops jumping onto the bed may not be avoiding you. They may simply be hurting, and in older dogs, disrupted sleep patterns can signal canine cognitive dysfunction, the dog equivalent of dementia. So if the routine changes, notice it, because behavior is how dogs communicate. They don't have language. This is their language. So the next time you wake up at 3 in the morning with 6 inches of mattress left and 80 pounds of dog pressed against your legs, remember what's really happening. Your dog didn't choose the couch. They didn't choose the floor. They chose you. Because of thousands of years of evolution, brain chemistry, and attachment biology all point to one simple conclusion. Sleeping beside you is the safest place in their world. And according to the science, it might not be bad for you either. If this changed how you think about your dog, subscribe to our channel and tell me in the comments, where does your dog sleep tonight? Because the next video answers another strange question. How do dogs pick up on our emotions? And the science behind that behavior is far interesting than it looks.